Hello nerds! Thank you for watching Generally Nerdy. This is the Week in Nerdom, your place for daily nerd news update videos. And today being Tuesday, we are talking about TV news. And we actually have a whole lot in TV news, plus a review. So we've got Roswell, Hanna, Star Trek, Picard, lots of stuff is going on in TV. Let's hit up the intro. Hello, nerds. Thank you for watching Generally Nerdy. This is your week in Nerd. Generally Nerdy. First things first, we're talking about CW's Roswell Reboot. This time they're calling it the full and proper Roswell, New Mexico, which seems super arbitrary and silly. They released 2 trailers for the new reboot. You can follow the link in the description to go find those and watch them. It looks like this time around it's going to be more drama and pretty people doing pretty people things than cool alien stuff like we got in the original. But then again, I might just be remembering the original wrong. But that's all we got there. So we're moving on next to Hanna. And if you don't remember, this was a movie that came out in 2011 with Saoirse Ronan. It was like her first big thing, at least stateside, that I ever remember seeing her in. That was the first thing I ever saw her in. Amazon is turning it into a series, and there's actually trailers in the description. This just kind of came out of nowhere. They have, I'm going to read these off the screen real quick. Esme Creed Miles from Dark River is playing Hanna, the titular character that was, again, played by Saoirse Ronan from the movie. And then, playing Eric Bana's part, they have Joel Kinnaman, who you will recognize from that horrible Suicide Squad movie, and also Altered Carbon, which was actually pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. And then, to round out their main cast, the FBI agent that was going, or the government agent, I don't know if it was ever explicitly stated FBI, but the government agent that was originally played by Cate Blanchett is now being played by Mirai Enos, who actually already has done a show with Kinnaman. They were the duo that did The Killing on AMC back forever ago. So very interesting. I really dug the movie, so I hope Amazon is putting their money where their mouth is, because they've got a lot more to spend than Netflix, even though Netflix has announced how much they're putting in. I feel like Amazon potentially could overtake Netflix in the original programming arena. If this is solid, and then they continue with these solid things like The Tick and Man in the High Castle, and they have quite a few really solid, really, really good original programs. So if this adds to the cadre there, then they're on the perfect track to overtake Netflix. So gonna definitely be keeping our eyes and ears posted for this one. Next up, we have 2 Star Trek updates, the first being Discovery. For Discovery, we all know that Spock is going to play at least some sort of role in Season 2. Still not 100% certain how much of a role in Season 2, but we got a little bit from Ethan Peck, who is going to be playing the character in Season 2. Got a little bit of the psychology behind where Spock is in his journey, and there's a quote. He says that he's dealing with his human side for the first time since childhood, a process that is essential to his development. So we're gonna see an emotional Spock, which is a pretty interesting thing, just because we don't get a whole lot of that, because every other version of Spock that we've got has like we've heard the stories, and he'll break out on occasion, very, very rarely, and be very emotional. But by and large, he usually lets his Vulcan side be in control. So, will this shade the way people interpret this character? Will this, and let's pass this off to you guys. Are you looking forward to seeing this struggle, or are you of the mindset that your Spock is Nemoy, and the way Quinto was kind of aping Nemoy just a bit? That's an interesting conversation to have. Do you want to see more of this emotional, struggling Spock, or should Spock always be stoic and solid? And let's have that conversation down in the comments section. Next up, we have Picard, the other Star Trek series that's going to be streaming on CBS's All Access app later this year. Though I believe Picard will start streaming after all of the episodes for Discovery have streamed. And so, speaking of psychology behind the character, it has been confirmed this week that the events in Picard are going to be taking place after the last regular universe Star Trek movie, so the one that came out in 2009. And so Romulus, which is the name of the Romulan Empire's homeworld, oh man, there's a lot of words there, is officially destroyed in the universe of Picard. So because Picard was the ambassador to Romulus, this has affected him very greatly. So that is the show that we're going to be seeing, is kind of the fallout and how Picard leads things now. Interesting. I'm really interested to see what they can do with Jean-Luc. What they can I dig Discovery to an extent. I feel like it's a little too flashy. So if they're going kind of next generation with Picard, I'm all about it. I feel like that is a better direction to head rather than the direction they're going with Discovery, but that's just me, and we're moving on. Our last bit of TV news this week, guys, is Legion. All of the mumbo-jumbo merger talk between Disney and Fox has not affected FX, apparently, because Legion is still happening like nothing's going on. They just announced for season 3 that they have cast Lauren Tsai to play Switch, and that character is described as a young mutant whose secret ability serves as the key to executing David Haller's plan. So I will really be interested to see how this affects the TV properties. Because the only thing that Fox is keeping, as far as I've read and everything that I can see, the only thing Fox is keeping is their news branch. So the other TV titles, the other TV properties that they have, including Legion and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which may or may not still be on. I haven't watched that one for a few seasons now. But they have some other TV titles, and are those gonna be all canceled now too because Disney has a streaming site? Interesting to think about, but yeah, still pretty cool that we're at least gonna get a season 3 because they are casting it, which means they're beyond pre-production. They're moving into actual production, which means we'll see it regular time this season. And that's the end of the news this week, guys. Next up, we have reviews to talk about. Before we do the reviews, though, guys, I'm going to remind you that there is a Patreon account. Patreon.com/GenerallyNerdy is the place that you can go support the channel. There's quite a few levels these days, and at the lowest level, just $1 a month, I do a monthly Discord, and we go over the previews for next, or just at the lowest level. For just $1 a month, which is the lowest level, you get early access, you get a monthly Discord, so much stuff, even just for that $1. Go check it out again, patreon.com/generallynerdy. You get a lot more stuff the higher up you go on the patron scale, all the way up to $50, and you get credited as a producer in every video. So again, patreon.com/generallynerdy. And now let's review some stuff. And this week for reviews, we only have one show, and we're going to do the entire show because it only existed for a season and it got canceled, apparently. It's The Mist, which just got up on Netflix not too long ago, but was from 2017 on Spike. So technically it's older, but we are talking about the entire season, and again, it just got put up on Netflix like a week ago, so I'm sure a lot of people haven't seen it yet. But, let me preface by saying I watched the Mist movie when that came out a few years ago, and that was okay, but it wasn't enough to make me want a series based on it. So when I saw Netflix wanted me to watch the Mist TV show, I was not super intrigued. But I'm being somewhat of a horror fan, even though it is Stephen King and he's not one of my favorites. Me and the better half decided, yeah, sure, let's watch it. And I feel like there's a couple of things the series does better than the movie. But by and large, the broad strokes, if you will, are no different. So there's not a whole lot that really makes you want to come back. And there's no surprise that it didn't come back for a second season. Even though technically Spike doesn't exist anymore, it still could have got picked up by the Paramount Network, and that's a whole other deal. But let's talk about the things that the show does well. It does the character development, we'll say good for that. I don't necessarily, because many of our main characters, there's only really growth between the father and mother. So Eva and I can't remember the father's name, or Eve rather. Those are the only two characters who are different, really, by the end of this. You could make an argument that, I believe his name was Connor, the chief of police, that he has a bit of an arc too, but his is kind of all over the place, and it really only happens in the last 2 or 3 episodes of the season, so it's not a very well-developed arc. The only well-developed arc are our 2 main adults. Their daughter is the same person the whole way through. So our 3 main cast members, 2 of those 3 have pretty decent arcs. As far as the other characters, the secondary and tertiary characters, everyone is the same. Like that's so yeah. So it does that well with the characters it cares to do that too. Let's say that. The other thing is it sets the mood very well. The impending doom that comes with the Mist, the paranoia, that all translates very, very well from this series. And then the last thing that I feel like the show does well is the subversion of expectations. Now, I say that, and then we're going to talk about how they don't do that very well as well. But because it's the story is pushing you in a direction that you think it's going in this direction, but that direction is very politically incorrect. That direction is not something you expect out of Hollywood, though every sign they give you says this is what's going to happen. And spoiler alert, I'm going to stop being vague and I'll just freaking tell you. There is a secondary character who is the friend of Alex, who's the daughter of our 2 mains. I can't think of his name either. He is gender fluid. Seems to be more gay than anything because he only talks about liking boys, even though there is one scene early in the season where he corrects Alex and says, "No, I fall for the person, not the gender." So it's all the very complicated pronoun nonsense that you get from SJW types and super liberal types. And so that when you first get to that moment, it's a little cringy, but as the season progresses, he becomes the villain. This little gender fluid kid becomes like straight up, aside from the mist, he is the most evil thing in this movie, or in this series rather, and you don't expect that, even though again they're giving you all of this stuff. They're trying to make, because he makes it look like Alex, again the daughter, is date raped at a party by the head jock, and really he did it. And like, again, they point you so freaking hard that is where they're going, but you just don't expect them to actually go there. You expect that to be the red herring, and it really was the jock kid. So that I thought was, I don't know if that was executed well, but it was very ballsy. Let's say that. It was very, very ballsy to do that and to go in that direction. Also, the dialogue is passable for the most part, but there's definitely towards the end of this season, there's definitely scenes where it's like, I don't think these writers have like heard angry people speak before, because this escalated entirely too quickly. Just some of it was done for effect, and I understand that, but a large chunk of the latter dialogue is laughable. This is really that bad. As far as the rest of the series, yeah, it wasn't so great. The acting was really shoddy. Frances Conroy is in this series, and I've never been a huge fan of hers. I always feel like she's a bit of an overactor. And this time it's borderline melodramatic at certain spots. If for those that don't know, Frances Conroy is in American Horror Stories in a few of those seasons. She's the older lady. Season 1, she's the maid. She's the old version of the maid. And then in the most recent seasons, she's one of the witches with the big red mane of hair. Yeah, and the crazy eye. That's Frances Conroy, and again, have never been a huge fan of her acting abilities, and this is definitely not changing my mind on that, though she's probably the most extreme example. Everyone else is just kind of flat. So at least you can say she's animated. She believes in her character. She just goes way too far with it. There's subtlety. You would have been nice. So, that all being said, let's get into the ratings. So, general score for this, we are looking at a 65 out of 100. Just, again, because the technical side of things wasn't super well executed. And I guess to be expected when it's put out by a channel like Spike, right? There are certain things about this that are enjoyable, but on the whole, it's something you put on as background noise. Mythology is the next one we're going for, and this is comparing to the movie, not necessarily comparing to the book, because I haven't read the book, but it hit most of the same beats as the movie, but it gave more atmosphere than the movie. And I feel like this, had the technical aspects been executed better, this would have been the preferred medium to tell this story, because if you had 3 seasons to tell the entire story, which I think would have been a good length of time, 3 seasons, 30 episodes, 30-hour-long episodes, then they could have done this 10 times better than the movie. As it stands, though, those technical sides we've already talked about a number of times at this point weren't there. And so it still had a better environment than the movie, but the movie had a better story, if that makes sense. So this is getting probably the highest score of all 4 of them, and that's an 85 out of 100. I wanted to see the creatures, man. Like, that was the biggest thing. I was looking forward to because you had more chance to see the creatures, because you don't really get much of that in the movie, but you didn't get any of that in this season because, again, I feel like they were anticipating more episodes and they didn't get them. So it was kind of a letdown on that side, but 85 still pretty solid on the mythology scale. Writing, we've talked about this. I'm not going to go any deeper into this because that we'd just be beating a dead horse at that point. So writing is a 60 out of 100. And then enjoyability, like I said, this is something like I could totally see putting this on it as background noise while you're doing other work. Wasting too much mental energy on it is probably not advised. We're going 60 out of 100 for enjoyability. And that is the end of the TV episode this week, guys. What did I miss in news? What should we talk about next week? Let me know in the comments down below. If there's something you think I should review, definitely drop that down in the comments. If this is your first time at Generally Nerdy, then click that subscribe button or follow, depending on which media you're watching on. Or if you like this episode, click the like button. If you didn't like the episode, click the dislike button. Whatever, just let me know you're there. If you want to go deeper into the conversation, there's a website, generallynerdy.net. That's the place you can find all of the social medias. There's things that I write go up on generallynerdy.net. All of the merch, you can go to the general store tab across the top of the website and go get your nerdy swag. I'm gonna be bringing some in for myself because I'm pretty proud of the stuff that I've put up there. So go check it out. Generallynerdy.net is the place to do that. If you are falling behind on your nerd news though, and you want to catch up, then you can click or tap that box right there to the left of my face to do that. But before you click that box and before you go to the website and do any of the other things, guys, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.